Imagine this. You are standing in traffic. Cars are honking, people are rushing, everyone is frustrated. Most complain about the chaos. But one person asks a different question. How can this be solved? That single question became Uber. Every fortune begins with a frustration. Airbnb was born because travelers could not find affordable rooms. Netflix emerged because one man hated late fees. Spanx came from one woman frustrated with her outfit. Problems are not dead ends, they are beginnings. Yet most people never profit from the problems they face. Why? Because the brain is wired to see problems as threats, not opportunities. The wealthy see something else. They treat problems as profit signals. They know frustration is a map to value. They understand that problems are not blocks on the road. They are the road. Think about your own life. How many times have you said, "I wish someone would fix this"? That thought is the seed of a business. But most stop at complaining. Only a few take the next step and ask, "What if I fixed it?" Here is the difference. Wealthy people do not have fewer problems. They use a different framework, one that turns pain points into paydays. By the end of this video, you will know how to rewire your thinking so that every challenge becomes raw material for profit. You will see how frustration fuels innovation. You will learn how to spot opportunities where others only see obstacles. This is not theory. It is grounded in psychology, proven by history, and tested by entrepreneurs around the world. So let me ask you, why do some get wealthier with every setback while others collapse under pressure? Why do some walk into a problem and come out with a paycheck, while others walk away defeated? The answer is not intelligence, luck, or connections. It is how they think. Once you make this shift, you will notice it everywhere in business, in relationships, in daily life. You will see that the world is not full of problems. It is full of opportunities in disguise. And the best part is that you can train your brain to think this way. You can practice it until it becomes second nature. So buckle in, because the framework you are about to hear can change how you respond to every frustration, every obstacle, and every challenge you encounter. But first, we need to understand why your brain fights against this way of thinking. The answer takes us back thousands of years. Picture this. A caveman walks through the forest. He hears a rustle in the bushes. His brain has one job: survive. Fight, flight, or freeze. That same brain still lives inside you. It was built to keep you safe, not to make you wealthy. When you face a problem, instinct whispers, "This is dangerous. Stay away." Thousands of years ago, that was true. Today, the same wiring makes you avoid the very things that could change your life. Most people respond to problems with stress. The train is late, they complain. An app crashes, they curse. A bill arrives, they worry. Problems trigger emotion, not strategy. But here is the irony. Every problem is also a signal. It reveals unmet demand, wasted time, or broken systems. Those signals point directly to opportunity, yet most people never see it. Their brain is too busy running away. Psychologists call this negativity bias. The mind pays more attention to what is wrong than to what could be right. That bias protected our ancestors. But now it blinds us. Another bias gets in the way too, and it's called present bias. Your brain favors instant relief. Complaining feels quick. Solving feels like work. So the brain chooses the complaint. But complaints do not build wealth. So here is the shift. Wealth builders feel the same frustration as everyone else, but they pause. They notice the bias, and instead of asking, "Why me?" they ask, "What if?" What if internet speeds could be faster? That became billion-dollar companies. What if canceled flights could be solved on the spot? That seed grew into airlines. Most people stop at frustration. Wealth builders stop at opportunity. So the next time your brain screams, "This is a problem," catch yourself. Is it a threat or is it a signal? Because every time you choose signal over threat, you are training the framework that turns problems into profit. Now here is where it gets interesting. Once you start seeing problems as signals, you realize something profound. Every business you admire started with the same raw material. Not money, not connections. A problem. Jeff Bezos saw that people hated the limits of physical bookstores. He asked, "What if every book was available online?" That question became Amazon. Howard Schultz noticed that American coffee shops were quick stops while Italian cafes were social hubs. He asked, What if coffee could be community? That became Starbucks. Problems are not the end. They are signals. Wealth builders know this. They treat every frustration like a clue that points directly to unmet demand. Think of problems like locked treasure chests. Most stare at the lock and walk away. They say, too heavy, too complicated. Wealth builders look at the same chest and ask, where is the key? That question is what separates survival thinkers from wealth builders. The wealthiest people in history did nothing more than solve problems at scale. Henry Ford solved the problem of expensive cars. Bill Gates solved the problem of computers being too complex. Oprah Winfrey solved the problem of disconnected stories by creating a media platform. The bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. Not every problem is worth solving, but every problem is worth noticing. Wealth builders train their minds to scan for friction, inefficiency, and frustration. They build what I call opportunity radar. How many frustrations did you notice today? Waiting in line, sorting through spam, fixing a glitchy device. Each one is a signal. Each one could be a business. But here is the filter. A problem becomes profitable only when the solution creates more value than it costs. That is why wealthy thinkers ask, is this problem painful enough? Is it widespread enough? Will people pay for the solution? Think about Elon Musk. He looked at climate change and transportation. He asked, what if electric cars could be sleek and desirable? That one question launched Tesla. A global problem became a global company. And here is the beautiful part. You do not need to start with global problems. Wealth builders often begin small. They solve their own frustration first, then they expand. Small signals, multiplied across many people, become large opportunities. So the framework is simple to say but profound to live. Problems are profit signals. They are not warnings to retreat. They are invitations to create. But recognizing problems as signals is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you learn to transform your perspective completely. The first step in turning problems into profit is to reframe the way you see them. Most people look at a problem and stop at the surface. They say, this is annoying or this is unfair. They take it personally. Wealth builders look at the same problem and ask, who else feels this? Reframing is about shifting from me to we. If a frustration belongs only to you, it is just an inconvenience. But if millions share it, it is a market. Take Sarah Blakely. She was frustrated with how her clothes fit, so she cut the feet off her pantyhose. Then she asked, how many other women struggle with this? The answer was millions. That small frustration became Spanx, a billion-dollar brand. Or Reed Hastings. He returned a movie late and paid a $40 fee. Most people would have cursed and moved on. Hastings reframed it. How many others hate late fees? That question became Netflix. Your brain is wired for personal survival. When something hurts, it focuses on your pain. But wealth builders train themselves to look outward. They understand that personal pain often reflects collective pain, and collective pain means demand. Try this right now. Think of the last problem you complained about. Slow Wi-Fi, long hold times, a product that broke too soon. Now ask, who else feels this and how costly is it for them? Suddenly, your irritation becomes a potential market. Reframing also means seeing the scale of wasted time or money. Waiting in line might waste half an hour for you, but multiply that across millions of people every week, and it adds up to billions of lost hours. That waste becomes a massive opportunity. So here is a simple habit. Each day, write down 3 frustrations. Then ask yourself 3 questions. Who else feels this? How intense is it for them? How costly is it in time, money, or energy? This practice trains your brain to reframe problems as opportunities. Over time, you stop seeing problems as personal attacks. You start seeing them as universal signals. The first step of the framework is clear. Reframe the problem, because the moment you shift perspective, you stop running from frustration and start profiting from it. But here is what separates small wins from life-changing fortunes. It is not just about solving problems. It is about how you solve them. Reframing a problem is the first step, but reframing alone is not enough. If you want to turn a problem into real profit, you need leverage. Leverage means multiplying the power of your solution. It means solving once and letting that solution spread to thousands, even millions. Without leverage, you might solve a problem, but your impact will always be limited. With leverage, the same idea can transform into an empire. Think about Uber. The founders did not buy cars to compete with taxi companies. That would have been linear thinking. Instead, they built a platform that connected riders with drivers. One system scaled across the world. Airbnb used the same principle. They did not build hotels. They leveraged empty bedrooms that already existed. Wealth builders look for leverage points hidden inside every problem. They ask, how can I solve this once and let the solution spread many times? Leverage comes in different forms. Technology makes a solution repeatable, like code for a food delivery app that works for millions of orders. Systems create consistency, like McDonald's turning fast food into a global chain. Networks multiply value because each new user strengthens the system, like social platforms. And capital itself is leverage when invested wisely. Most people stop after solving a problem for themselves. Wealth builders go further. They ask, how can this solution scale? That question turns personal fixes into profitable businesses. Consider a freelancer who automates one boring task. Instead of keeping it private, they package it as software and sell it. One solution becomes a global tool that is leveraged through technology. Timing also matters. Smartphones created leverage for app developers. Social media created leverage for influencers. Cloud computing created leverage for startups. Wealth builders stay alert for shifts that unlock new forms of leverage. To find leverage, ask 3 questions. Can technology make this solution repeatable? Can a system make it consistent without me? Can a network make it stronger as it grows? If the answer is yes, you have found your leverage point. Without leverage, your time and energy will always limit you. With it, you can solve a problem once and benefit 1,000 times. That is why wealthy people feel unstoppable. They are not smarter, they just use leverage more effectively. So step 2 of the framework is this. Do not just solve problems. Seek leverage points that multiply your solution, because profit grows when impact scales. Now comes the moment where most people freeze up. They overthink instead of taking action. But wealth builders know a secret about turning ideas into reality. You have reframed the problem. You have spotted a leverage point. Now comes the part where most people get stuck. They overthink. They plan for months, waiting for the perfect idea. But profit does not come from theory. It comes from testing. Wealth builders know this. They build prototypes. A prototype is a small test, a rough draft. It is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to reveal truth. Think of Thomas Edison. People said he failed 10,000 times. He said, I have found 10,000 ways that do not work. Each test brought him closer to success. Instead of waiting for guarantees, wealth builders create quick experiments. They know the only way to reduce risk is to test. Dropbox did this brilliantly. Before building their product, they released a simple video showing how it would work. Thousands signed up to the waiting list. The test proved demand before the product existed. Prototypes save time and money. They reveal flaws early and teach lessons fast. The learning itself is the real profit at the start. So ask yourself, what is the smallest version of this solution I can test today? Build a simple model. Offer a free trial. Sketch an app. Even a failed test is a win if it teaches you. This is the learning loop. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates learning. Learning creates better action. Each cycle brings you closer to profit. The difference between dreamers and doers is not intelligence. It is the willingness to test. So step 3 is clear. Prototype and test. Do not wait for perfect. Take small steps, learn fast, and move forward. That is how problems transform into profit. But what if I told you there is one more step that separates good businesses from legendary fortunes? This is where the real wealth gets built. At this point, you have reframed the problem. You have identified leverage points. You have built and tested prototypes. Now comes the step that separates short-term wins from long-term fortunes. The step is compounding, not just compounding money, but compounding solutions into systems. Here is what that means. Most people solve a problem once and stop. They fix their own frustration, maybe even build a small business, and then move on. Wealth builders think differently. They see every solution as the beginning of a system that creates more solutions. Think of Elon Musk. His first big success was PayPal. He solved the problem of clunky online payments. that gave him not just money, but experience and credibility. He used that to launch Tesla, solving problems in transportation. Tesla gave him resources and networks, which he leveraged into SpaceX, solving problems in space exploration. Each solution built on the last, that is compounding in action. Here is the key insight. A problem solved creates more than just profit. It creates knowledge, it creates relationships, it creates credibility. Each of those can be reinvested into solving the next problem, and when you keep reinvesting, your results multiply. Think of it like building a city. Your first solution is like laying a single road. At first, it seems small, but soon that road allows people and goods to move. That movement creates demand for shops, homes, and businesses. Each addition makes the city more valuable. Over time, you do not just have a road, you have an ecosystem. That is what wealthy people do with problems. They do not just solve, they build ecosystems. Here is a story to illustrate. A young woman started a small online store selling handmade soaps. At first, it was just about solving the problem of harsh chemical products. But over time, she realized her customers cared about sustainable packaging, so she solved that too. Then they asked about eco-friendly lotions. She expanded again. Each solution attracted more customers and created more trust. Within a few years, she had built a full brand ecosystem. What started as one problem, harsh soap, became a system of solutions that supported an entire company. This is compounding. Each solution unlocks the next. But let us take it deeper. Why does compounding matter so much? The answer is psychology. Your brain underestimates exponential growth. It expects a straight line, but when you compound solutions, growth curves upward. What looks small at first can explode over time. Consider Amazon. It started with books. That was one problem, limited selection in physical stores. But once the system was built, Amazon added electronics, clothing, cloud services, and streaming. Each layer built on the last. Today, Amazon is not just a bookstore, it is an empire of interconnected systems. Now let us bring this back to your life. Every time you solve a problem, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What knowledge did this solution give me? 2. What relationships did this solution create? 3. How can these assets fuel my next solution? This turns every win into a foundation. Even small projects build momentum if you use them wisely. Here is the trap to avoid. Most people take their profits and stop. They spend the money, forget the lessons, and move on. Wealth builders reinvest. They pour the profits, the knowledge, and the connections back into the system. That is why their growth feels unstoppable. Let me give you a relatable example. A freelancer learns how to market their services online. That skill solves the problem of finding clients. But instead of stopping, they package what they learned into a course. That solves the problem for others. The course builds an audience, which opens the door for partnerships. Each step compounds. So here is the truth. The difference between a side hustle and an empire is not just the size of the first problem you solve. It is whether you turn that solution into a system that compounds. Wealth builders design feedback loops. One success feeds the next. Every solution creates more capacity for bigger solutions. Every layer strengthens the system. So step 4 of the framework is clear. Do not just solve problems, compound solutions into systems. Build loops where each win multiplies the next. Because in the end, fortunes are not built from isolated victories. They are built from systems that keep compounding long after the first problem is solved. Now you might be thinking this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually rewire your brain to think this way automatically? By now you understand the framework. Reframe the problem. Seek leverage, prototype and test, compound into systems. But here is the real question. How do you train your brain to actually think this way every single day? Because the truth is, your brain was not built for wealth. It was built for survival. And survival wiring does not naturally look for opportunities. It looks for threats. It notices what is wrong but does not ask how to fix it. So if you want to turn problems into profit consistently, you need to retrain your mind. You need to build the habit of spotting opportunities where others see only frustration. Let us start with a simple exercise. Every evening, write down 3 problems you notice during the day. They can be small, like a glitchy app, or big, like expensive rent. For each one, ask 3 questions. 1. Who else has this problem? 2. How painful is it for them? 3. What solution would make it better? At first, this will feel like work, but with repetition, your brain begins to shift. Problems stop triggering only stress. They start triggering curiosity. Instead of thinking, this is annoying, you will think, this is interesting. That single shift rewires your response. Here is why this works. Neuroscientists talk about neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to rewire itself. Every time you repeat a thought pattern, you strengthen it, like carving a groove in rock with running water. Complaining strengthens the habit of avoidance. Reframing strengthens the habit of opportunity. So the practice is simple. Stop reinforcing complaint mode. Start reinforcing opportunity mode. Let me give you a story. A man named Richard Branson was stuck on a Caribbean island when his flight was canceled. Most passengers groaned and cursed. Branson asked a different question. What if I charter a plane and sell tickets to the other stranded passengers? He did exactly that. The experience became the seed of Virgin Atlantic Airlines. One canceled flight, one reframe, one empire. This is what happens when your brain is trained to treat problems as possibilities. But here is another layer. Training your brain also means surrounding yourself with the right environment. If everyone around you complains, your brain normalizes complaint. If your circle talks about solutions, your brain normalizes opportunity. That is why wealthy people curate their circles carefully. They put themselves in rooms where solutions are celebrated, not mocked. They read books that expand their thinking. They follow innovators instead of complainers. They engineer an environment that trains their brain daily. And here is a question for you. Who are you listening to most often? Are they teaching you to complain, or are they teaching you to create? Another exercise you can try is the annoyance journal. Carry a notebook or use your phone. Every time something frustrates you, instead of venting, write it down. Over time, you will build a catalog of signals. Patterns will emerge. You will notice the same frustrations repeated by many. That is your opportunity map. Think of it like training a muscle. At first, it feels weak, but the more you practice, the stronger it gets. Soon, you will not need to remind yourself. Your brain will automatically light up at problems. You will feel excitement instead of stress. Here is the key. Wealthy people are not born with special vision. They trained themselves. They conditioned their brain to associate problems with potential. That conditioning turned ordinary frustrations into extraordinary fortunes. So step 5 of the framework is this. Train your brain to spot problems differently. Make it a daily practice. Surround yourself with solution-minded people. Journal your frustrations. Reframe complaints into questions. Because the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And once it becomes natural, you will start seeing opportunities everywhere. But theory only takes you so far. Let me show you exactly how this framework works in the real world with 2 powerful stories. Stories are where ideas come alive. We have covered frameworks, psychology, and exercises. Now let's see how this mental shift plays out in real life. We will look at 2 case studies, one aspirational, a world-famous wealth builder, and one relatable, an everyday person who used the same framework to change their path. Let's start with the aspirational. Howard Schultz grew up in a poor neighborhood in Brooklyn. His father was a truck driver. Money was always tight. By most accounts, Schultz should have stayed trapped in the cycle of struggle, but he learned to see problems differently. When Schultz visited Italy in the early 1980s, he noticed something strange. Coffee bars were not just places to drink coffee. They were cultural hubs. People lingered, connected, shared life. In America, coffee was quick and transactional. Grab a cup and go. That contrast revealed a problem. Americans did not have a space for affordable, community-driven experiences. Schultz reframed that problem into an opportunity. He asked, what if coffee could be more than a drink? What if it could be an experience? Most people thought the idea was silly. Why would anyone pay $3 for coffee when they could make it at home for pennies? But Schultz understood something deeper. The product was not coffee. The product was connection. By reframing the problem, he built Starbucks. One store became 10. 10 became 100. Today, Starbucks operates in over 80 countries with tens of thousands of locations. Schultz turned an ordinary frustration into a system that compounded into a global empire. This is the framework in action. Reframing, leveraging culture, testing with small stores, and compounding into a brand ecosystem. A problem became a profit signal. But you might be thinking that is a billionaire success story. What about regular people like you and me? Let me show you. Now let us look at a relatable example. Meet Laura. She was a graphic designer working at a small marketing agency. Her salary was modest, about $35,000 a year. She liked design but hated her daily frustrations. She spent hours chasing clients for feedback. Projects stalled because communication was poor. She felt undervalued. Most people in her situation complain and stay stuck. Laura did something different. She kept a small annoyance journal. Every time she felt frustrated, she wrote it down. The biggest frustration was slow, confusing client feedback. She reframed the problem. If I feel this pain, how many other freelancers and clients feel it too? The answer was thousands. She asked herself, what leverage points exist? Technology was the answer. She sketched a prototype for a simple tool that let clients leave comments directly on design drafts. Instead of overthinking, she tested the idea with 2 clients. They loved it. The tool saved time, reduced stress, and made projects faster. Laura realized she had created something bigger than a fix for herself. She refined the prototype into a lightweight app. She offered it to more freelancers. Word spread. Within 2 years, Laura's tool had thousands of users. She left her agency job. The tool generated recurring monthly revenue that surpassed her old salary. But the story does not stop there. Each step compounded. The app attracted investors. Investors brought networks. Networks opened doors to partnerships. Laura expanded into project management features, turning her tool into a full platform. All of this came from one frustration: slow client feedback. The difference was not money or luck. The difference was her framework. Reframe the problem. Seek leverage in technology. Prototype fast. Compound into a system. Train the brain to see frustration as fuel. If Howard Schultz could turn a cultural gap into a global brand, and if Laura could turn a daily irritation into a thriving business, then so can you. The scale may differ, but the psychology is the same. So the lesson is clear. You do not need to be born into wealth. You do not need extraordinary resources. You need the mental framework that treats problems as profit signals. Once you practice it, your life begins to change. And that brings us to the most important question of all. What are you going to do with what you now know? We have traveled a long path together. Let's bring it full circle. Every fortune you admire, every business you use daily, every invention that shapes your life, began with the same raw material: a problem. The difference between those who profit from problems and those who collapse under them is not luck. It is not connections. It is not intelligence. It is mindset. Most people see problems as threats. Wealth builders see them as signals. Problems are profit signals. You have learned the framework. Step 1. Reframe the problem. Shift from why me to who else. Move from complaint to opportunity. Step 2. Seek leverage points. Do not just fix a problem for yourself. Use technology, systems, networks, and capital to multiply your solution. Step 3. Prototype and test. Do not wait for perfect. Test small, fail fast, and learn quickly. Step 4. Compound solutions into systems. Reinvest your profits, knowledge, and relationships into bigger opportunities. Build loops where each win fuels the next. Step 5. Train your brain daily. Write down frustrations. Surround yourself with solution-minded people. Condition your mind to light up when you encounter a problem. This is how everyday frustrations become billion-dollar companies. This is how small annoyances become thriving businesses. This is how ordinary people build extraordinary wealth. So let me leave you with this. The next time you feel frustrated, pause. Notice your instinct to complain. Then ask yourself one question. What if this is not a dead end, but the beginning of a business idea? That question alone can change your future. Here is your challenge for the week. Each day, write down 3 problems you notice. Do not complain about them. Reframe them. Who else feels this? How painful is it? What possible solution would make it better? At the end of the week, review your list. You may be surprised at how much opportunity is hiding in plain sight. Remember, the wealthy are not problem-free. They are problem-trained. They do not run from frustration. they harvest it. If this video gave you a new way to see the world, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share it with someone who needs to stop running from problems and start profiting from them. Because once you learn to treat problems as profit signals, you will never see the world the same way again.